that's the time we want to start, right? Start on time for everyone who comes in. Welcome to everyone who's here at Park Office Center with us, and to all of those at other locations. Welcome for the last Lunch and Learn of 2016. As you know, we're wrapping up the end of the year. Next month in December, we have all of our holiday lunches. Please register. Anyone who hasn't been, they become a real holiday tradition, and we have great turnout. All of the events are listed on the calendars right now, and we look forward to seeing all of you at our annual holiday luncheon events. There's one at each location. I've even known one or two people who have made it to more than one during the course of the season. Today, I am really excited to talk with you about our virtual office sites and one of the exciting partnerships that we have with the group from BizzyWeb. Today's presentation is building a solid web presence, and all of us know how important that is in today's marketplace. More and more people are buying goods and services off the web, and your website, how is it going to stand out and really be about your brand in your business? Trygve Olsen is BizzyWeb's Director of New Buzz Development. That's a good title, isn't it, Trygve? And he brings a wealth of experience in digital marketing after running his own business for 5 years, including experience servicing both national organizations and helping to grow local businesses. And that's what it's all about in this market too, is growing all of your local businesses. He works with a national sports team. Are you going to tell us who it was?
No.
Okay, startup businesses, growing and emerging businesses, struggling businesses looking to regain their market share. He has extensive experience in website development, branding, organic SEO, special event management, SMS marketing, and email marketing. He's been a solution provider for Constant Contact in the Twin Cities since 2010, and an authorized local expert in 2011 and 13. And in 2014, he was named a Constant Contact All-Star. And I have to vouch for the fact that we started Constant Contact in 2014, and it has really enhanced a lot of our marketing things. And BizzyWeb has been our partner in that as well. So without any further ado, on this cold, cold day, please welcome Trygve from BizzyWeb.
Yay! Well, thank you, Lori. I never quite heard all of my laurels presented all in one time, so that's pretty extensive, and thank you for having me. I didn't know that this was going to be the last Power Lunch of the year, so hopefully it's not a stinker. And thank you for everybody who's joining in remotely. My name is Trygve. I'm the Director of New Buzz Development at BizzyWeb. We are really thankful to be partners with the folks at Virtual Office Centers, and we think it's really a first-class organization. It's really one of our showpieces as we look for new business development, and it's something that we champion. We're really excited to be there. So I really appreciate the opportunity to spend time here. I know it's cold outside, so hopefully I'll get some pity laughter going. You'll all be happy and at least stay warm for the time being. So here's what we're going to do today. I'll tell you a little bit about us, who we are. Then we're going to get into a lot of negative reinforcement. I think the best thing that we can do is talk about what not to do on a website, and try and have a little fun there. And then we'll talk about really what you do, and then how exactly does that manifest itself into a realistic solution for you. Especially if you're not a marketer, there's a lot of people doing a lot of things, and you want to make sure that you make really good choices. So a little bit about BizzyWeb. We've been in business since 1999. We are currently based out of Champlin, Minnesota, just right up 169. We have a team of 14 people, and we have clients all over the world. Although our heart is here with the folks at Virtual. So what exactly does that mean, and what exactly do we do? We are a full-service digital marketing agency. So we are specialists in taking somebody who has absolutely nothing, creating a logo, creating a brand strategy, taking them into having a website, having a virtual presence and a virtual store, translating that virtual presence into social networks, gathering more people, getting more leads, converting those people into paying customers. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is really how you're presented and how you look, and then how does that really translate into helping you get new customers, and that's one of the things that we do at BizzyWeb. So let's start with the negative reinforcement. Let's start with what exactly shouldn't you do? There's going to be a lot of things that we're going to go through, but they really only start in a couple of different categories. First of all, mobile responsiveness. This is something that in 2015 has become critically important to most businesses, regardless of whether or not you think you have people on the go or not. So if your website is mobile responsive, what that means is that your website will automatically render all of the information, all of the pictures automatically based on what exactly your user is interfacing with it. So if they're on a tablet, it's going to be presented in tablet form. If they're on a phone, it's going to be presented in phone form. If they're on a PC, it's going to be presented in PC form. There's value in that, and that's critically important because Google, and as of April of this year, has completely stopped ranking any website at all for if you are not a mobile responsive website on a mobile search. So I'll say that again in a different way so it makes a little bit more sense. If somebody is searching for you on a mobile device and your website is not mobile responsive, that means that you will not be ranked by Google. Period, new paragraph, end of story. Now, yes, ma'am.
Is that for just the mobile website?
Just for mobile. So if you are not,
website is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes and no, because here's the punchline to the story.
Everybody's using this.
80% statistically nowadays, 80% of all searches are done on a mobile device, either on a tablet or on a phone. So if somebody's looking for you and they're not able to find you, they will go somewhere else. And here's the first and most important thing that I'm going to tell you today, that in this day and age, people are not looking for a reason to buy from you anymore. People are looking for a reason to not buy from you. They are looking at you in a critical eye in their own home to try and figure out whether or not you are worth the time or not. So having a website where you have to take your phone and scrunch it around and squint a little to try and make sure you read everything, not being found, spelling errors, little things like that, those are all big killers when it comes to lead generation. And really, anything that we do with websites has to be focused on affirmative forward momentum, like generating new business and generating new leads. So if you're not sure if your website is mobile responsive, the easiest way to do is Google mobile-friendly webmaster tool. There's a big, long, drawn-out URL that I have included here that you can write down if you'd like, and we can take a second. But if you Google it, they should give you a good tool to be able to do that. And you can see here on the PowerPoint, I've shown you how our website renders a little different. So that's the first and most important thing. Make sure that your website is mobile responsive. Laura, you don't have to do that. We made your website,
I know.
so your website is mobile
People who
responsive.
ask me, so.
Yes, sir.
Question, sorry, I rightly.
Yes.
I paid a fellow $300 to make my website mobile responsive,
Mm-hmm.
and he did it in about 3 minutes.
Yep.
My sense that all you had to do was press this button with whomever, and it would have been boom, mobile responsive. How long is the process? How many hours would you expect to spend on a website to make it mobile responsive?
Boy, I can't speak to your situation without knowing several more particulars about the situation. But it sounds like somebody took $300 from you. To be honest with you, because building a website that's mobile responsive basically means it has to be rebuilt from the ground up in such a way that the first thing that the website is asked is how is this information need to be presented. So there are some outs to that. If your website was built in certain languages that all that had to be done was throw a switch, then yeah, it's entirely possible that might be true. Or what they might do instead is add a mobile site onto your website. So then if the end user is on a mobile device, then they will get directed to your mobile website, which is okay. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but the challenge there is you now have two websites, and Google doesn't like it when you have two websites with the exact same information, so it downgrades everything. So the possibilities of getting found have just gone basically to zero. So it's better than nothing. It's not as good as you would ultimately want.
I mean, if you be provocative, I just assume somebody was wrong there.
I don't want to, without understanding it a little more, a little in depth and understanding the technology, of which after the fact I'd be more than happy to look at with you.
You're saying makes sense 100%. So.
Yeah, I don't want you to feel badly, and then especially because you have an evaluation card, I don't want you to feel me. Yes.
Wait, can you repeat the questions that are asked? I got some feedback that they can't hear.
Sure, gotcha. The question that the gentleman just asked was, he paid somebody $300 to make his website mobile responsive, or at least that's what the claim was. And was that easy, or was that a good use of time and money? And my answer and review was, I just don't know, but I don't think so. So, sorry, I wish I had better news for you.
I think to apologize for the reasons.
Sure. So, first thing, and I'm going to show you a lot of funny pictures. So, please feel free and laugh along. Is the design of the website. Think about the experience when you come here to any of the virtual office centers. You have a very similar experience, and I would argue it's very high class and very indicative of the people you work with here. You are always warmly greeted. You will always be asked for a beverage, hot or cold. You will always be asked how you are, every single time. So any of your clients that are coming here have a similar experience. It's warmth, and it's inviting, and it's professional. I joked with Lori at a time in the past that some of the competition that she has in town, it's like going into like a Batman nerd villain lair, because there's open ductwork everywhere, and there's beams and there's wires running across the hall. You don't get that here. This is where people come to do serious business and serious work. And yeah, there's a certain amount of fun and irreverence that happens here, which makes it such a wonderful place to be. But it's a great experience. So similarly, the first thing and one of the first impressions that people will ever have with you is how you look online and how your information is presented and how it looks. So I have this fun picture here of a woman hugging a horse. What does that have to do with anything? And there's sort of a tropical background there. There's actually a very successful horse breeder in Texas, and that she sells foals for upwards of $25,000. Question I would have for you is, based on a quick cursory look on that, would you give that woman $25,000? Hopefully the answer is no, because I certainly wouldn't. So some of the things that you should avoid, some of the things you should not do. Too many or clashing colors, especially if you're dealing with an older population. The eye tends to start to have things blend, so you want to make sure that colors contrast. Here's another fun one that it was behind, so we'll skip that. An ugly font. Typically, if you work with a designer, you use a font called Comic Sans, which is a perfectly fine default font, but some people will just think it's disgusting and think poorly of you for even suggesting using Comic Sans. But it does present how you are and whether or not you should be taken seriously or not. Having an outdated design. This design is actually about 15 years old, but this was a website that I took a picture of yesterday. So this website has absolutely no positive momentum. It's old. It does her absolutely no good whatsoever. Yes, sir.
What does the company like yours do to figure out what is a current design? Looking at what is happening out east or out west, or how do you know what's the specific clothing? How would you know?
The question was, how does a company like BizzyWeb determine what is a progressive design? And the answer is, in many occasions, a design doesn't have to be progressive. It really is an experience that is unique to your audience and how they relate to you and how it's how the information is presented. I worked with a lady earlier this year who's a comedian. She is a recovering cancer patient, and she speaks. And one of the things that we did when we started working with her, because she had gotten absolutely nothing from her website, was we took a look at her audience, and her audience was primarily women over the ages of 50. And she had a very contemporary website, very cool, switched on design that nobody could figure out how to call her. And so by actually creating a website that had the information that one needed to actually pick up the phone and call and make a decision is the most important. So to answer your question, how do we determine what's the best thing for one of our clients? The first thing we start with is who are we talking to? And who are we trying to attract? And then what do those people like? And how do we build something that matches what they like and they're interested in? So you talked about what's happening on the West Coast, on the East Coast. Here in Minnesota, here in the upper Midwest, what's happening on the West Coast, but what's happening on the East Coast has a little bit of weight when it comes to design, but really the most important thing for us when we work with our clients is what is their audience, what is the audience like, and how do we present it to them?
I'm not sure if you understood my question. I'm talking more about the colors, the textures. How do you know what? Is there a designer and a staff like BizzyWeb that actually knows colors and shapes, or do you have to make
Yes.
a designer separately?
Yes, and in determining who the audience is, there are colors that appeal to certain audiences more than others, and we have people on staff who actually make those decisions and help our clients work with it. Yes, Lori.
No, and I'm just going to add that at virtual office centers and offices, we went through this process at the beginning of the year. Was something that we announced our new design. I think it was in the first quarter, and they gave us so many ideas about how do you want it to look, and what are your colors, and what about your brand. And then we looked at hundreds of websites. What aspects did we like? We looked at people who were our competitors. We looked at people who were in the office service. We looked at people who were totally unrelated. We did a lot of work. Our team did in looking at, how did we want to present ourselves and what did we think was fun. And we looked at them on phones. We looked at them on tablets. We looked at it on, how things translated. And so all of those different kinds of things. And they kind of guided us through, helped with the process of what was going to be best for us. And I'm really pleased with the sites that we came up with. Our virtual office site is just awesome.
Thank you. Does that help?
You bet.
Excellent. Cool. Last thing we're going to talk about with design is language. There was a fight between Steve Jobs and Adobe about 10 years ago that still holds true today, where Steve Jobs determined that Flash took up too much battery life on Apple devices, so Apple just simply doesn't support Flash. So if you've got a Flash website, it means that it can't be seen well on an Apple device, and it's going to immediately hurt you. It's going to be, and then in addition to that, Flash is something that has to constantly be updated, and it's just really a pain in the neck. It really has sort of gone the way of the dodo bird. So if you have something that's associated with a Flash, and I have another picture that you'll enjoy, it doesn't do you any good in this day and age, and it certainly doesn't help when it comes to mobile devices or even tablets. So, content issues. In the first person in your audience, that is the most important person in your audience, is a little robot that lives at Google that comes by and every 5 days will read everything on your website. And then it will determine, based on what it reads and a number of other factors, where you will be positioned when somebody asks a question. So the other thing to consider when you're talking about content is how exactly are you presented, and how exactly are you saying things to entice people to work with you. When was the last time, first question, when was the last time your website was updated? It needs to be updated regularly to continue to be ranked well with Google and then therefore be found from other people and new people. This particular picture I have on here, this is an attorney. He's a criminal attorney. So my question I would have for you is, based on what you see here, if you're in jail, do you really call this guy to help get you out of jail?
Looks a little space.
Probably not. There are variations on that theme. Bad content. I think I am tremendously funny. I think I am always funny. One of the jarring realities of my life happened when I got married, and my wife sat me down very quickly in our marriage and explained to me that I am not as funny as I think I am. I know. Everybody here at Park Office Centers, afterwards, I'd really love it if we could call them together as a group and explain to her how wrong she is, but we'll get to that later. Comedy for comedy's sake is fun when you're at a comedy club. Comedy in your workplace is not always going to play across all borders and across all audiences. So make sure that you don't have bad content that might be offensive in some way or another to anyone. Right now, as we're taping this, we're dealing with a number of national crises that are very divisive, and people fall very hard on one side or the other. But in business, unless we want to only work with half of those populations, we need to stay out of those phrases, especially as we're presenting ourselves on our website. Finally, the last and most important thing here is a call to action. What exactly is a call to action? A call to action is when you're asking somebody to do something. Please click here. Please give me a piece of information. Please download this. If you don't have a call to action, really what you have is a billboard on the side of a highway. Okay, I've learned that. Next. I'm not enticed to do anything from that. There's no sense of urgency for me to actually take an action. Now, to be fair, taking an action and asking an audience to take an action is not something as severe as buy this used car today, or else there will be several puppies who will be put to sleep later. It's something as simple as, can you read more? Would you like to join my newsletter? Something like that. Having affirmative action, having your audience take an action means that you can start having a conversation with them. You can start engaging with them. You can hopefully get to the point where they feel good enough to call you or come to your location in person, and then learn more about you and begin a relationship. So, as means of funny content issues, I also have this guy. And I know this is going to be hard for you to read, but this is a guy who put up a website as an online resume. And he is a support engineer, so he works in IT. Now, I'll read this to the audience. So the last paragraph says, in his time outside of work, he can be found chilling out, maxing, and relaxing in his local and playing some b-ball down by the school. People who are up to no good and making trouble in his neighborhood is what he would call his main annoyance. Does that sound familiar to anybody? No. Well, okay, so maybe it's just, again, my wife was right, maybe it's just funny to me, but that's actually the opening lines to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme song.
Oh, yeah.
Which is super, it's funny, haha, we're talking about bad websites, we can learn from this, but a question that you always want to ask is, how is somebody else going to look at this? Does the fact that he can quote the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air mean that he is really going to be proficient at his job? Does that make you want to pick up the phone and call this guy and say, yeah, man, come on in. Let's talk about our favorite Will Smith movies?
Yes.
So we got one. Well, I'll give you his number later. This is something that we come across at BizzyWeb all the time. Is people come to us and they say, well, I just want like a 5-page website. I just want it to be like a brochure for my business. And our response is, why? If you have a brochure, why do you need a website then? What's the good of it? What's the value of it? It doesn't do anything. It's not presenting you in a unique way. So if you ever have thought that I really just want a brochure for my business, you shouldn't get a website because of these following reasons. Number one, it's like a billboard. As I said earlier, somebody sees the information, maybe they take an action, probably they don't. So show of hands, for those of you who are remotely, you can think about this in a rhetorical sense. All of you passed a billboard on your way here today. All of you did, I know it for sure. Can anybody raise their hand and know what exactly that billboard was? Can you remember it? So as an effective marketing tool, why are we going to do something where we can't even remember things that we saw less than an hour ago? Second, a billboard very rarely has calls to action because it doesn't actually present you in a way that can get the person to, was there a question, Corey?
Nope.
Yes.
Are you talking about billboards and brochures or not?
I'm talking about billboard, I'm talking about the billboard effect as it relates to a brochure website. So if you have a website that's just, I just am advertising, I'm just saying, here are my services. That's not going to do you any good because it's the same thing as having a billboard. You need to have people take an action towards
the brochure have a call to action.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Usually a brochure will be left behind after you've built a relationship with someone. Third, on a brochure website, it's virtually impossible to measure your return on investment. A lot of the questions that you need to ask yourself when you have a website is how many people are coming to the website in a 30-day period? How many unique visitors do I have? How long are they staying? What pages are they reading? What pages aren't they reading? How many people as a ratio of people who are coming to my website versus actually taking an action and interacting with me? If you don't have those calls to action, you're not including that in your overall presentation, you're going to have very little clue. Because when you say to somebody, how did you hear about us? People rarely give the actual correct answer. It's not because they're lying to you, it's because they just don't remember. I don't know, I saw you online somewhere. Well, that's great. Did you see our Facebook page or did you see our website? You just don't know. Finally, you want to make sure that you are following what we like to call the 80-20 rule, which brochure websites very rarely have the opportunity to do. The 80-20 rule means that 80% of your content should be focused on solutions that you are providing to the people that you are trying to market your business to. 20% of the time you should be promoting the business, not vice versa. So the entire thrust of your website, 4/5 of your website should be focused on what are the problems that you solve. And then asking somebody to take an action and make a leap with you. So usability is a really big issue when it comes to websites and it comes to how websites are used and are they functional and are they is it actually easy to find information? I mentioned the comedian that I talked about earlier. The problem that she had was it was very difficult for people to figure out how to contact her. And so in the 10 seconds on average that people read and evaluate a website, they were reading it. It's too hard. I'm gone. Yes?
We've got a question from Olympic. It says, is there an average visits per website? I'm sure it's based on the content, but is there an average or a goal for a website?
A goal for visits to your website varies greatly depending upon who you are and what you're presenting. If you're a small business located in one area, you don't focus a large area, maybe having visits in the hundreds is sufficient to you. If you're a multiple location business, a regional based business, you really should be somewhere in the thousands and you should be having a significant number of people who are unique visitors. So there's a difference between number of visits and unique visitors. There are people who come all the 3 or 4 times, which is good. That's an evaluative number, but unique visits is where you should start. So if your website isn't mobile responsive, we talked about that a little earlier. If it uses Flash, this is what happens. You can see on the screen here, there's a little puzzle piece. So somebody put together time and effort to present this in a very specific way, and you can't see it. And after all that, what's going to happen? Well, people are going to look at that and go, oh, I don't understand. Maybe it's me. I don't know. I feel bad now. I'm going to look at something else. Nobody's going to start making a buying decision and making an evaluative decision by feeling bad about themselves. And unless you're the cable company, then you can probably get away with it. So files that are too big or hidden links. I talked to you earlier about the Flash player. This is what happens when your website gets too old. You just have a big, giant blank screen that doesn't go anywhere. So Focusing on your audience, focusing on the age of your audience and what appeals to your audience is the best place to start when you're trying to focus on usability, because you want to make sure that your audience can truly use it. If your website trends older, things have to be redundant, things have to be very, very easy to find and very, very simple. If your audience trends younger, you can make it a little bit more contemporary, have a few more design elements. But ultimately, all of those decisions are going to be based exclusively on you. So SEO is a big, scary word that not everybody knows. A lot of people feel like it's a Rube Goldberg machine that you give some guy a bunch of money and then maybe some things happen, and what exactly does that mean? So SEO stands for search engine optimization. When Google is reading your website, it's making a decision, making an evaluation. Where do I rank this website if somebody asks about it? Is it first? Is it second? Is it 412? So focusing on SEO gives you the opportunity to be found by search engines. And when I say Google, I really mean search engines, because Google generally gets about 85% of all search engine traffic. Yahoo and Bing tend to follow along with that. So when you are loading a website, it is not what you might think it is. Really what it is it's a set of rules, and it's a set of queries that a computer is just returning. So when we build websites, it's let's put a picture here, let's put words here, let's make sure everything looks in a presentable way. But there are ways in which you can sort of game that. One of which is actually adding tags and extra keywords into things like the pictures and the title, which is the top of the website. So how do we know if a website is really good or not? It needs to have the following things. It needs to have a title tag, and that's the thing that appears in the blue screen, blue bar on top. It says what the title of the website is. There are keywords in which you can put there, which Google will then rank you for. Description tags. That when you pull up a Google search, it will list a website, then it'll give you a little description. All of that needs to be put in by a developer, and it usually runs about 140 words. Alt tags and heading tags are included in the coding. Really, that's another way to add a few more codes that your developer should understand, but it's a way to get the keywords that are important to you included in your website and not be visibly seen by everyone else. So how does this turn into bad things? Things like repetitive text and keywords. How many times have you ever looked at a website that says, for Minneapolis plumbing problems, the best Minneapolis plumber to go to is Minneapolis' best plumber in Minneapolis? That's somebody who's trying to keyword stuff. It doesn't actually make any sense to use Minneapolis 7 times in a sentence. They're just trying to get ranked higher for Minneapolis. And Google will look at that and say, no, you can't do that. Yes, sir.
Given that some of us use all the different locations of office centers,
Mhm.
If we put all these locations, not exact addresses necessarily, but at least the cities that they're in,
Mhm.
And you have to show up on every page, is that keyword stuffing on geographical locations of where your business is located?
That's really more of a philosophical question
Can you repeat the
than
question for the?
sure. The question he was asked was if somebody uses all 5 different virtual office center locations and they put their addresses, the addresses of each virtual office center on their pages, is that considered keyword stuff?
Not even the address necessarily, but the cities. Because when I had a law office in law firms would list every city and the county area, no matter where they were located. So people took advantage of that, where we can actually say we have an office here, we have an office there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just put the city names or suburb names on each page, is that stuff?
Yes.
So you
Putting 5 locations of the virtual office centers is not keyword stuffing. And I'll show, I think if you do this, where you put 125 cities in the state of Minnesota in, because technically if you're an attorney, you technically could work in any of those locations, that's considered keyword stuffing. Yeah. So there's some black hat things. And what is black hat? It's really it's a term that is comes from Western, where Westerns where the good guy would wear a white hat, but the bad guys would wear a black hat. So when you're playing a King of the Hill game like SEO, there's a lot of strategies that you can do to bend, but a lot of things will just outright break Google's rules. One of them is adding a whole bunch of text to a website and then making the color of the text the same color as the background. So the user looks at it and sees white space, but Google reads it as a whole bunch of extra text. Can't do that either. So some common mistakes with SEO. First and the most important one is every time you build a new website, you have to ask search engines to crawl it. You have a file called robots.txt that's basically a green light for search engines that says, yes, it's okay for you to go forth and read through my website. If you don't have one of those, you need to get one immediately. Not including the right words on the page, really, that gets to the keyword idea that I sort of spoke of earlier, and compelling content. If a content really isn't interesting to your audience, it's going to reduce the amount of time that they're going to stay there. So, and that's a valued feature that Google has. And finally, Google has a great tool called Webmaster Resources, and you can get it at google.com/webmaster. Give you a lot of tools to really help take a look at your website and evaluate where you are and how to grow from there. And again, here's an example of what the gentleman was talking about, a list of every single city or town in the state of Minnesota. And the question that he had asked was, is this okay? On the one hand, no. On the other hand, well, kind of, but not really. So no, this will actually get you downgraded from Google. The second reason is when I look at something like that, I don't take people seriously, because I look at that and I see, oh, that just means they can go everywhere. That's valuable space that they could be taking up by presenting something else in an enticing manner to get me to continue to interact with the website. So finally, the wild card, just random, awful, silly things that you find on websites, like this particular website that I'm showing here. That's just painful to look at. That's too much. That's like going into the middle of Times Square and trying to buy something. There's too much going on. There's too many bright lights. I can't handle it. So flashing buttons, very, very bad. Sound. If you load a website and it plays a tune, that always drives me nuts. Animated GIFs. GIFs are graphic interface files where it's about a little 5-second clip that something is happening. A lot of times, I'm personally a sucker for Kit Kat GIFs, where cats are doing funny things, but that's not helpful in the business sense, and it doesn't show correctly across every single platform all the time. So it's not helpful. You should get rid of it. Too much action in a slider. What is a slider? A slider is that big picture that goes forth over and over. If it's going too fast, there's too much information presented. It's just so difficult to be able to get people to interact if they're just looking at a 60-mile-an-hour highway going back and forth all the time. Nonsense text, or what we call lorem ipsum. So typically what happens when we build a website for someone is about halfway through the process, we add a bunch of Latin content so that somebody like Lori can see what a website will look like with text in it. The last thing we do is actually add in the content, but the first part is just it's kind of like staging a house. It's not really your furniture, but it's kind of your furniture, so you can get an idea of what it might be. So if you've ever seen a paragraph that starts with lorem ipsum, it means that somebody has just not done enough quality control. So that's all the bad stuff, but let's talk about the good stuff. And now that we've had a little fun and had some comedy, let's talk about how we do this in ways that actually make sense. First and foremost, optimize for search engines, but actually make sure that it's human. I gave you the Minneapolis plumber idea earlier where I said Minneapolis 6 or 7 times in a sentence. A real person's going to read that and go, I don't get that. These people are weird. I'm gone. So make sure that what you do right is actually sensible to a real person. The easiest way to tell that is to read it out loud. Second, keep your goals in mind and include calls to action to that goal on every single page. So what is the purpose of your website? Are you promoting a product? Are you trying to get more leads? Are you trying to get more business? Okay? Have a goal and a call to action on every single one of your pages that helps further that action forward. Third, keep your download time short. There's ways in which you can do that where you are not presenting a whole ton of information that will make a website be really, really difficult to load or really, really slow. Websites should generally load in under two seconds. Longer than 2 seconds means that people's attention spans are starting to wane. Fourth, we talked about this earlier, make your site mobile responsive, because every single time, especially as mobile grows, more and more people are going to look at you on a mobile device. Next, connect with social media. Even if you don't think that you have an audience on social media, you do want to have a defensive posture to make sure that nobody else takes your positioning on social media. But everybody should have some social media, and it should be connected to your website. And every time you update your website, it should relay out to social media. Yes, sir.
What do you mean by being defensive to make sure that someone doesn't take your place on social media?
So I have a Facebook page.
Can you repeat that question?
Yes, I'm sorry.
All right.
The question was, what do I mean by being defensive? Even if you don't think that your business can gain any sort of value from having a social media presence, your business can be hurt by one of your competitors taking over that social media presence for you and optimizing for your business name. We worked with a company that was a rental company based in the North Metro. And one of the things that we started doing was realizing that their biggest competitor was actually paying Google to be shown every time that they that somebody searched for our client's name, because our client wasn't in the game at that point. So there are a lot of ways in which people can have nefarious means and try to gain a little bit of market share. So even if you just have 10 people following you on Facebook, that's a good thing to have, because that means that you actually have a presence that nobody else does.
I have one of my competitors who puts office centers on their page. So if someone comes in, theirs will pop at the same time.
Right. So
is that the black hat thing? And it's really guys like accountants where you'll say, well, we could do it's a little bit gray area, but.
Right. Right. A good accountant will just tell you no. A bad accountant will cross their fingers and hope they don't get caught.
But let's say, for example, you're starting in a business, somebody else is really well known in the business.
Mm-hmm.
They have a pretty common name, it's easy to slip in and speed up that again.
Sure.
And so I come to you and say, why don't we slip in this name somewhere somehow? How would Google ever identify that as a black hat? Or would the other company have to report it? Would they get anywhere?
Well, it depends on how you do that. If you're, let's say you're an accountant and there's a big giant accounting firm in town, you can certainly compare yourself in a positive way to talk about how the services that you provide are better. But if you have a page that's talking about how nasty the other people are and how they're colossal jerks that steal from their clients, yeah, that's going to get found because you're going to be saying that company name over and over. Google's going to look at that and go, well, wait, you're not the Johnson accounting firm, you're the Adams accounting firm.
So if there's even 8 spaces that are invisible in, so to speak, it's the same color, using the same color as the background, so it's the same text. Google right away will see that and be major strike. Oh, well.
Major strike. Yep, absolutely. That's verboten. So using all the right tools, a lot of what I've talked about, hopefully some of you might be thinking by now that your head is going to explode, because how on earth do I take care of this? And how on earth do I actually accomplish all this? Some tools that will make your life easier are things like having your website auto-post to your social media content. So every time you update your website, you don't have to think, what do I do for social media content? You just need to update your website, and it automatically gets pushed out. If you're thinking about a social media presence, I listed a couple of things here. So Facebook is really great for sort of general catch-all posts and also offering deals. LinkedIn is great if you're in a B2B environment or if you're trying to demonstrate thought leadership. Google Plus is exclusively used for SEO content. Google Plus is not a social media platform that a lot of people take seriously for social media. Really, it's just a way to up your Google ranking. So it's important to have. It's not something you should think about a lot of if you've got it automatically running. And finally, Twitter is really based for short updates and tips. Best way that I can describe Twitter to you is it's like 10 million people in a field talking at the same time. There are strategies in which you can actually cluster the people who are talking about the things that are relevant to you and make that actually be positive for your business. Finally, one of the more important things to think about is a blog. What exactly is a blog? A blog is actually short for a web log. It's like an online diary is what it was when it first came out. But now really what it is it's a place in which you can consistently and constantly update your website with news, information, and thought leadership. And every time you do that, it's going to up your search ranking because Google will see, hey, this person has added something to their website. There's new content here. That's a good that's a good thing. It also keeps your clients up to date. It also makes you look like you're engaged with your audience. It gives your clients an opportunity to subscribe and actually get things sent to them on a regular basis every time that you add a blog. And you can even share testimonials, but the real fun is when you get to a place where you can offer information that's only for members. That'll give you the opportunity to really make some of those people who are just on the fence really make them feel valuable as long as they're starting to interact with them. So all that being said, one of the great things that Lori made a quick allusion to earlier is we're excited to launch a website service that is in partnership with the folks here at Virtual Office Centers. We're calling it Virtual Office Sites. And everything that we talked about, all the bad stuff that we went through today, all of that gets quickly and easily solved by working with Virtual Office Sites. Here's one of our Virtual Office Sites that we just did. This is for somebody here in the St. Louis Park location. It gives you clear calls to action on every single page. We force you to ask the question, what does your audience want and how do we give it to them? Every single one of our websites is mobile responsive, so that immediately takes that concern right off the table, and it's automatically integrated with all social media channels. Every time you build a Virtual Office site, you're completely in the driver's seat. You never have to pay to have somebody else update your website or have that annoying thing where you have to call your developer and have them pay $50 to have them update and change a period to a comma. All of that is now in your hands. You get to present your business lines driven exclusively by you. What's the most important things for your business? And do those change? If those change, then you get to change the website with you. It's fully secure. It's fully supported, meaning if you break it, we'll fix it. If somebody hacks it, we'll fix it, and it's available 24/7. And really, what we like to think of this is it's not just buying a website. Really, what it is it's a marketing system. You get a whole team of people, just like you do here at Virtual, where you get a whole team of people who are working to help you get better and working to help you succeed more. Really, what we're trying to do with the Virtual Office Sites is take it out of this location and help you out in the community to garner more leads and grow your business. So everybody should have in front of them a handout on what exactly this all means and how exactly this relates. One of the really fantastic things about this program is that plans are starting at just $50. And it goes up from there. And it really gives you a whole lot of different marketing avenues to go along with. If you are here in Park, if you're interested in learning more about this, you can see me afterwards. If you're in one of the other locations, I'd encourage you to talk to a Virtual Office Center employee. They'll get you in touch with us, and we'll get you humming and get you started. So, any questions? I've gone through a lot of information really fast. I appreciate the kind pity laughter that those of you gave me who are here in Park. Yes, sir.
I'm looking at the handout you gave us.
Yep.
Which is real interesting, but I'd like to focus your attention to your own website for BizzyWeb,
Yep.
the mobile version. What features are on it that you designed it yourself, right?
I did not personally design it, but the team did.
What elements are in it that emphasize what you think is important?
Well, I think with our website, I'm sorry, one of the question was, he's got the BizzyWeb website pulled up, and he asked about the elements that are important as we're presenting our business. There are two things that are important, at least when you're looking at our website. You can find our phone number really quickly on a small device. You can navigate through our website very quickly, and you're able to see our slider, which we have two that move back and forth. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Is there any kind of initiation fee?
Yes, it's a one-time initiation fee. It's $199.
Good to see that flyer. And so then you can cancel whenever you want, or do you sign a contract?
You sign an initial 12-month contract, but you can cancel after that.
And there's no, if you're getting no results, there's no guarantee for this, right?
There's no guarantee for this. Do you offer a guarantee in your business?
It's irrelevant. I just mean, so you don't say you're going to get at least X number of hits or visits or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
No. What we do tell you is that we are going to put you in a position to succeed, and we are going to help you grow your business. How exactly that happens is things that we work individually with you on. And what exactly your goals are compared to everybody else, that's really specific and unique to you. Yeah.
Question came in about, you mentioned how often you should change the content on your website.
Mhm.
So the question is, how often should it be done? Can you elaborate on that?
Got it. So the question was, I talked about updating the content on your website. How often do I think you should do it? In an ideal world, once a week, but that's really unrealistic to those of us who actually have jobs and can't think of new things to write every single time. Google's robot will come by and come visit you every 5 days. So you want to make sure that you're hitting them at least once or twice a month with new content. So about once a month or twice a month, I think, is just perfect. Yes, sir.
You say once or twice a month, does that mean blogging at least that much, or I should change the content of the basic website?
You should be adding. The question was, when I say once or twice a month, does that mean blogging or changing the basic thrust of your website? You don't need to change the basic thrust of your website because your business doesn't change every twice a month. You should be adding new things and talking about new things that you're doing within your business once or twice a month. Really, how that relates is typically falls into the category of blog.
Okay, there are other things you can change within your website that aren't. Obviously, people say blogging is the most important thing.
Yes.
But you're saying that's not to the exclusion of changing your website in other ways. But well, what else would you add to a website? None of the information is changing.
So one of the ways that virtual office centers websites changes on a regular basis is they have an event calendar.
Events.
So every time they have an event, that's an added piece of content that goes on their event. In addition to that, every time
the newsletter goes out, just for everybody on the other, every time our newsletter goes out, we make a blog post about who's the success, the clients that we feature. All of those are additions and new content. When people go in and they start to book conference rooms and all those, they're going into the website to make those bookings and all of the other kinds of things. So we have people that are driven by the membership pages. When you look at all of the things that we're doing, it's constant. Whether we do a Facebook post, it's on there. We do Twitter, it's on the side, the Twitter bird's on the side of each Twitter post. So we get a lot of posts during a day, a week, a month.
But a lot of what she's talking about is automated.
Right.
So they don't have to work very hard at because
Not
a lot of
threats for sure.
well, that's true. A lot of the things are interrelated. So every time things get sent out to social media, then it automatically comes back and it just explodes like a mushroom cloud.
And the 24/7 is when I know the website's up 24/7. Did you mean also you have telephone support?
We have support 24/7.
There's an answer to the phone and answer your question.
I cannot guarantee that somebody will answer the phone 24/7, but I will guarantee you that if there is an emergency situation, somebody will get to you within 60 minutes. I can tell you about, we had a client earlier this year that her website was hacked allegedly by ISIS because her password for her website was password. So this happened at 2:30 in the morning. local time. Within 5 minutes, we had it diagnosed, and we had it taken down and put up a backup of her website. Within 15 minutes, we had determined that it wasn't actually ISIS. It was 2 teenage kids in France who were having some fun. And within an hour, we had them turned into Interpol. From 2:30 to 3:30 in the morning local time.
You stop a terrorist attack.
We did not stop a terrorist attack. We stopped 2 teenage kids from doing something stupid. So I certainly don't want to claim that a website can stop terrorism. Certainly not our websites. But the point is that stuff happens. We're going to be there and responsive to fix it as quickly as possible. So thank you, everybody. I'm so honored to be the last PowerLunch speaker for the year. Hopefully I did it to justice.
If anyone has any questions, or if you know people who would find this information helpful, by tomorrow, Corey will have it posted so that it will be on our YouTube channel, and you can forward this to someone else. You can watch and learn. And anybody else, remember that any of the PowerLunch presentations are all available to you if you want to go back and look at them. We are creating our PowerLunch seminars and schedules for next year. I think that we are probably up until summer already full. So we would like to know if you have a topic that you would like to present. Please let us know so that we can get you on the schedule. Things are filling up very quickly. In fact, we're thinking about possibly doing 2 during a month. We've had that much response and people who have great and timely topics. I know today the information that you've given us is invaluable. And anyone who wants to know about virtual office sites, please let us know, because there's a way that you can really have a great website without having to put out, tens of thousands of dollars that some people do, and yours is going to be looking just as great for a fraction of the cost. Just to let you know that in January 28th, and it's going to be at this location at noon, we already have scheduled one of our community members, Deirdre Van Nest, with Accelerated Performance, how to give a crazy good money-making talk. I know that it's crazy, but we've already had 7 people register. She's an excellent presenter. She's a national speaker, and she's known for make money from speaking mentor. She's a real mentor to a lot of people who are speakers and think about wanting to do some speaking things in the future and how you're going to make money to do that. And it's a great informational seminar. So mark your calendar, January 28th. Can you believe? January 28th. We're already talking about January 28th to 2016 at noon in this location. And as I said, remember, please look at your at our website if you want to see any of the things that are on our calendar of events. It's action-packed for December. And please read your December newsletter. We have got some huge, major news coming down the pike. And we have just been sitting on it for so long because it's not been a done deal, but we are getting closer every minute. So watch your December. We are going to have a lot to celebrate. Okay? Sounds good. Any other questions? All is well.
Good job.
Thank you, Trygve.
Hey.